Good morning. Good morning. Hope you're doing well this morning. I wanted to do this live because we've been getting we've been just really busy, quite frankly. A lot of phone calls, a lot of emails around the TSP and like what's it doing right now, right? And so I wanted to take some time to really address this. Now I know, everybody here is concerned about the TSP, but mainly the purpose of this video is really, or this live session, I should say, is for those that are 59 and a half, retired or retiring this year, right? Because, and the reason why it's for this group, right? Because this group is the group that really needs to take some level of action regarding TSP because, you're retiring, right? You want to preserve the money that you worked 20, 30 years to accumulate, right? And so everybody else, even though the market is down, again, the market will bounce back over time, right? You just got to stay consistent. Even if you remember back in 2008 when, there was a big crash, the famous, real estate crash and everything went down. People that stay consistent in their investments made a lot of money, right? And so you just want to stay consistent. I know it looks bad on your screen, but at the end of the day, it's just money on the screen. For that group, for y'all that still have 10, 15 years left to go, just keep doing what you're doing. The money will bounce back. And I'm gonna give you a quick analogy to address y'all, then I'm gonna move on to the group that this calls for, right? So if you think about it like this, right now, the market is down. Let me look at the fund. The market, as of yesterday, the S fund was down 29% for the year. So let's just take, for example, let's say you shares were worth $100 last year. Now, 29% drop, meaning shares are worth, let's say, $70, right? Because that's basically a 30% drop in what it's worth. But every pay period, you're buying shares at $70 now. $70 every time, every pay period. Of course, that fluctuates every week. But again, when the market comes back, you would have bought all these shares that are now that you bought now for $70. When the market comes back, those shares now will be worth $120. That ends up being a lot of money over time, right? But again, it's a process. It can take time, and that works for people who have years left. But the purpose of this video is for this conversation is for those that, again, are 59 and a half. So what that means is that 59 and a half means you have options. You don't have to just stay within the TSP, right? And also for those that are already retired and have a fear of losing money. And number three, for those that are retiring in the coming year, because once you retire, you can do whatever you want to do with your TSP. You have more options of depth, right? So now on to our call, right? So one of the biggest myths within the TSP, and a lot of people are experiencing this, is that the safety of the G fund is something that you want to run towards, right? That when you have your money in the T and the S fund, like that's the only way to grow money, right? So now, first I want to address the G fund, right? Good morning, Tia. First, I want to address the G fund and the concerns people have with the G fund. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen just so you can follow along and understand what I'm saying, not just listening to me, right? So let me share my screen, because one of the things with the G fund that people often forget is inflation, right? And so I want to teach you a little bit right here, right? So within the TSP, you have two options. You can either have your money safe or you can have your money growing, right? There's really no in between, right? And so if you look here, I got the G, I got the F, and I got the C fund. Now, what was supposedly the case, it was the case in every other recession up until now, and I don't know what's going on now with this, but the G fund and the F fund were your safe funds. But if you look at this right now, the F fund is down 14%. So even though the G and the F were considered safe, the F fund isn't safe if you're in that age group where you're trying to preserve your money, right? And so if you look here, the F fund is down 14%. So you can scrap that as safety. It used to be. This is the first time where there was a recessionary period and you see the F fund go down like this. Typically the F fund is up. In 2008, the F fund was on the positive. They're rarely ever on the negative, right? And so I don't know what's going on with the F fund, but it is not safe at all, right? So what you're left with really is just the G fund, right? And so one of the things with the G fund is the G fund at this time, though, the return this year is at 1.9%. But if you look at the last 10 years, it's at 2%. You watch the news, you go to the grocery store, you go get gas, things cost more now, right? And so the issue with the G fund is this, right? And you can go to TSP funds and see this for yourself, but I just want to walk you through it. If you look at the TSP funds, one of the warnings on tsp.gov is you have to be aware that even though your money's safe within the G fund, you still are risking not being able to grow with inflation, right? What does that mean, right? If you look at this year, and again, this year is different than most, right? Because the government spent a lot of time, a lot of money, pumping money into the market during COVID. So, that creates inflation, right? But that's been going on for years. Like interest rates have been down for years. And so what that does is that allows more money to flow into the marketplace, right? And into the economy. And so when that happens, you create inflation. And the only way to bring inflation back is to raise interest rates. And so that's what's happening. So right now, if you look on TSP.gov and you look at the G Fund, you will see that they warn you about the fact that your money might not grow with inflation. So what are the real stats? This year, inflation is up 8%, right? On average, right? The G Fund is at 1%, right? If you look at the last 10 years, is at 2%. So even though your money is safe, the issue is, well, are you growing with inflation? The answer to that is no, right? Now, I get it. You rather have your money here and see like, hey, at least I'm not losing $100,000 like I've seen some people. I was talking to a lady yesterday and she lost $102,000 or something like that this year, right? Another lady I was talking to, I put in that email, she lost $115,000. And I mean, I hear stories like this all the time, right? So I understand you rather not lose money in the C Fund than in the G Fund. Like I get it, right? But the problem with the TSP and the thing you have to, is why I'm making this video is, unfortunately with the TSP, you only have the lesser of two evils in this particular market if you're in the category, again, of 59 and a half, retired, or retiring in this coming year, right? Within the TSP, because of the limitations of just having 5 individual funds, I mean, you have the mutual funds now, but that's a whole different world. And then you have the life cycle funds. But unfortunately, you don't really have much options when it comes to having security, right? And having growth at the same time in an inflationary period, right? And so what is the solution to that, right? So there are different IRAs that exist that you can put your money into that you do get that growth, right? So, I'm sure you're aware of annuities, right? And so one of the things about annuities that are great, especially for people in this particular category, is one, your principal balance is guaranteed, right? And so when the S&P index dips, your money just stays the same, right? You get a zero return for that year. You don't get the 20% return dips. And if you want to talk about this stuff one-on-one, we could do it, or I could do a longer call about it because there's still a lot of moving parts with annuities. But the thing about it is you do get that growth plus that security, which is really important. The thing is, the only time in which you can actually move some of your money and roll some of your money over to these type of IRAs is if you're 59 and a half or over, or you're retired already. And then, we can start looking at different options for you if you're at that age, if you're retiring in the next couple of months or something like that. We can do a TSP evaluation, look and see where you are, look at your FERS, things like that, and then say, okay, this makes sense for you. This one makes sense for you based on where you currently are, right? It's not a one size fits all for everybody, right? The thing about it is what we've done is we've vetted a bunch of carriers just because of how long we've been doing this. We've seen a lot of people retire. We've seen a lot of different plans that work. And so what we've done is we just customize them to fit your particular need, right? And so that's just that. And the reason why I'm making this video is because I've talked to so many people over the last month and, this year really, but this month has been really a lot. Who didn't know they had other options. So I wanted to make that known to you. If you're in this group and you think, you're losing money, but you don't like the way the G Fund is performing, and you're wondering what can you do, there are other options out there for you. So just wanted to say that. I want to stop sharing. Let me see. I want to answer any questions if people have any. Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to answer any questions that people might have, right? And so, again, if you have more than, 5 years or so left before retirement, don't worry, the market should come back. You know what I mean? I can't guarantee that, but based on history, the market tends to bounce back from times like this, right? And again, just to create the analogy again, right now the C Fund is down. Well, I'm gonna use the S Fund as an easier example. The S Fund is down 29% right now, right? 29% the S Fund is down. So again, if you had $100,000, right? Or let's say the S Fund is trading $100 a share. Now the shares are trading at You take 30%, that's $70 a share, right? So every time you get paid, you're buying into this TSP. You're buying $70 worth of shares of the S fund, $70 every time, right? So, and the market's been down all year, right? So over this year, you've just been buying up these shares. Now, when the shares come back and they grow and the market comes back, those $70 shares now are worth 120, 130, right? And so you gotta just take the long route. It might take a little while, but it's just numbers on the screen for right now, right? And trust me, I check my account every day. And it sucks to see you putting money in and it's not even going, it's like it's just going in the trash because you put money in, your balance, not only does it not grow, it just stays the same. It not grow, it stays the same or it goes less. And you didn't put all this money in this year, you know what I mean? But don't worry, right? That, history shows that the market should bounce back, right? And if it doesn't, we're all screwed anyway. But that's not going to happen. That should not happen, right? And so you just got to stay the course on this stuff, right? Like Tamiko just said, you got to stay the course. But that's for the long-term people. But if you're in that age of 59 and a half, already retired or retiring this year, you do have options, right? And you don't have to just run to the G fund for safety. Now, you don't have to move all your money into the IRA. I don't even recommend that really. You can keep some because again, you want to keep some of your money active in the market because the market will bounce back. But you shouldn't have to choose between safety being 1% or growth in the market. There are in-betweens. And so that's where the IRAs come in and allow you to get some of that security. With the IRAs, you're not going to get 30% growth in the IRA like you can in the C fund in a good year, right? You're not going to get that. And that's why I say you shouldn't take everything. You just take a portion of it. That's part that you want to make sure like, all right, this is what, worst case scenario, this is what I want to have, right? You want to make sure that part that you want protected, you want to have that into an IRA type thing. And we can help you decide which ones. But the rest of it, leave some of it in the market. I'd be a hypocrite if I would say, because I love the market. It's just not great right now, right? And so that way it allows you to be, get some growth in the market, which is valuable over time, right? And then, also have that level of security. It's not just the G fund, because the G fund typically is, even if you go log into your new TSP account, where the G fund is categorized, it's categorized as cash. What does that mean? It means it's just like money sitting in the bank, right? It's not like it's going to grow. It's not invested. And so it's invested, but it's invested in bonds. But even in TSP, they label it as a cash investment if you go into the TSP.gov, the new system. It's not meant to grow. It's meant to just sit there and be protected like money in the bank, right? It's cool, but when it comes to inflation, and this is why education is so key, because, I've talked to so many people. Matter of fact, I'll give you a real example. I was talking to a lady yesterday, and we were going over the money she has in her G fund, right? And she has $400,000 in her G fund, and we projected that out over a 10-year period, right? And based on that 2%, the $400,000 in her G fund would have grown to, I think it was $480,000 over a 10-year period, right? Then in the IRA, her money, that $400,000 would have grown to $881,000. Same money invested differently. And the thing about it is, it was the same level of protection, the same principal balance protection in both places. And this is why education is so key. Let me see what kind of questions. Right, Tia, that's the right thing to do, buying those shares at a low price. Because Tia, how long do you have before retirement? If you don't mind me asking. Yeah, Lauren, it's hard, but you got to think about it. It's just numbers on the screen, right? There's numbers on the screen. If you stay consistent, you'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? Those numbers on the screen, that when you turn 59, especially if you're going to retire around the 59, 62 area, right? Then those numbers on the screen will have grown so much because you bought shares at such a low price. You got to think about it. In the C fund, and if you do this, go to tsp.gov, right? Not TSP.gov. Put in TSP funds in Google. What'll come up is tsp.gov and the individual funds will come up. If you select the C fund, go to learn more. You'll see the things that the C fund is invested in. It's invested in Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, Tesla, all these different United Healthcare, all these different big companies. These companies, you're buying stocks of these companies when they're at a low point right now, right? And so that money will grow over time, especially for y'all that have years left before retirement. Like, this is a good time to buy if you can just separate yourself from the emotions of watching money grow. Money go down on the screen. If you can separate the emotions for that, you'll be good. And it's like, that's the mistake that so many people make. I've talked to people who in 2008, they just moved the bulk of their money to the G fund and they just forgot, right? And they missed out on hundreds of thousands of dollars from that simple mistake. I'm not gonna say it's a mistake, just that simple change in funds and then forgetting. The mistake is forgetting to go back and make the proper adjustment. That's the mistake. And so you want to avoid that mistake at all costs. Do I have any other questions before I log off? If you want to have any conversations about this, feel free to. I put a survey, I put a form in the email I just sent everybody. If you want to have a TSP evaluation, just fill out that form. We'll get on the call and go over everything and see what plans you can fit with that will fit you personally. All right, y'all, I'm gonna log off. Wish you all the best.